You ever come home from a long business trip, expecting to kick back in your own kitchen, only to find some stranger grilling steaks in your backyard like he owns the place? Yeah, believe me, I couldn't make this up if I tried. 3 days early, I swung into my driveway in that familiar, drowsy daze you get after a week stuck in Phoenix hotels. But there it was, a shiny BMW in my spot, smoke drifting over the fence, the unmistakable smell of steak, and a party I definitely hadn't been invited to. That was my first clue something was off. But trust me, it was about to get a whole lot weirder. So I unlocked my front door, expecting maybe Lena, my wife, to have friends over. Nope. Some kid, 20-something, standing in my kitchen, wearing a Nike hoodie, holding one of my beers. He looks at me deadpan and says, "Excuse me, you're trespassing. I'm going to need you to leave." I actually laughed, thinking this had to be some prank, maybe Lena's idea of a welcome home joke. But this guy wasn't kidding. And the way he folded his arms and looked at me, like I was the crazy one, well, I started to wonder if I'd accidentally walked into the wrong house. Buddy, this is my home. I've lived here 5 years, paid every bill, every mortgage payment. So unless you're some long-lost cousin, you're the one who needs to leave. But he just shook his head and pulled out a folder, documents, signatures, some official-looking deed, claiming his mother had gifted him the place 6 months back. I was so stunned I almost missed Lena's car pulling in, and with her, a flustered woman in her 50s, breathless and dramatic as she burst through the door. That's when it hit me. This was Kimberly, the neighborhood's beloved HOA president, here in the flesh, and boy, was she ready to put on a show. "Victor, what's going on?" she cried, and he replied like a rehearsed line, "This man is trespassing. Should I call the police?" Within minutes, we're both dialing 911, each telling the operator we're the rightful homeowner. Lena, to her credit, didn't panic. She slipped right into forensic accountant mode, examining Victor's deed with a professional's eye, running her fingers over the watermark, quietly whispering to me, "Jack, this is new paper stock. The dates don't match up. Something stinks here." Meanwhile, the officer who arrived, looking about as thrilled as you'd expect to play referee in a property dispute, told us this was one for the courts. File your reports, let the system handle it. But it wasn't just about a house anymore. I went upstairs. Our bedroom had been ransacked, Victor's clothes in my closet, fridge full of someone else's groceries. The alarm code changed. It was like waking up in someone else's life. Mrs. Webb, our neighbor, shuffled over with cookies and whispered, "Jack, I've seen that young man here for weeks." My skin went cold. If I thought things couldn't get any more bizarre, I was wrong. Friday morning, Victor struts around like he owns the whole street, flashing my keys, chatting up neighbors, telling them some sob story about how his mom saved the house for him after college. And wouldn't you know it, people start believing him. Lena uncovers that the notary on Victor's deed had been fired months before the documents were supposedly signed. Victor and Kimberly were spinning a web so tight, even I started doubting what was real. Kimberly played the concerned victim, visiting each neighbor, hand to heart, lamenting how anyone could forge her signature, how identity theft is such a tragedy. I tried to keep calm, but watching Victor water plants in my own yard, while refusing to return my keys, mind you, nearly made me lose it. My job started slipping too. Clients saw rumors online, my boss called, and said my credibility was at risk. You know what I mean? The humiliation was unreal. Lena's digging led to a dead-end address for the notary, just a storage unit out by the river. We found Linda, living in that unit, jumpy as a rabbit. She told us, in a voice that barely rose above a whisper, how Kimberly had paid her $5,000 to notarize some family transfer papers, knew all about Linda's sick son, her debts, her whole life. The manipulation was next level. Meanwhile, Victor doubled down on his charm offensive, helping neighbors with groceries, fixing fences, shaking hands like he was running for mayor. Mrs. Webb started a fundraiser for poor Victor, who'd supposedly lost everything to a cruel scammer, me. Neighbors I'd known for years started looking at me sideways, some believing Victor's story, others not sure what to think. Kimberly countered every accusation with legal-looking papers, rental agreements, even old police reports. Watching them work was like seeing two stage magicians pulling off a trick you can't quite explain, except you're the rabbit stuck in the hat. And then, Just when Lena's research started to crack the case wide open, digital evidence, bank withdrawal records showing Kimberly pulled $5,000 cash just before the deed was signed. Kimberly filed a stolen purse report, giving herself a neat alibi. I was losing the battle, and now the war was coming to my marriage, too. The stress, the suspicion, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, I really was losing my grip. That weekend, things went nuclear. Victor filed a police complaint accusing me of threatening him. Edited Ring camera footage, faked, obviously, made me look like the unstable one. Kimberly played the traumatized mother to the hilt, sobbing for neighbors, warning them they could be next. Then came the real gut punch, a psychiatric evaluation petition, backed by doctored evidence, and supported by half the neighborhood. Suddenly, I was the one under investigation for paranoid delusions. Victor and Kimberly had seen this play before. They'd even run it on some poor man in Colorado Springs a few years back, who died in care while his house was quietly transferred away. Lena found the records, but when we presented them at an emergency HOA meeting, Kimberly turned it all around, claimed we were being manipulated by a vengeful family. She even produced legal documents and surveillance photos to prove they were the real victims. The crowd was divided, but enough believed her to tip the scales. And just like that, everything I'd worked for slipped through my fingers. My boss fired me, neighbors filed restraining orders, even Lena, exhausted, battered by weeks of gaslighting, started to question if maybe I needed help. The HOA scheduled a vote to support the psychiatric petition. Kimberly and Victor had every angle covered, from legal filings to social media sympathy campaigns, making me out to be a dangerous lunatic. With 12 hours before my evaluation, my last shot at stopping the train before it ran me over, Lena spent our last $8,000 hiring a computer forensics guy, a handwriting expert, and a PI. It felt like betting the farm on a long shot, but it worked. Forensic logs showed Kimberly using her old bank access to forge documents. Handwriting analysis caught her faking signatures, and cell tower data placed Victor at the scene of their last scam. Even with the evidence stacked sky high, Kimberly stuck to her story, cool as you please, right up until the handcuffs clicked. Victor sobbed and screamed about justice, never breaking character. The trial dragged on for months. Legal bills wiped us out, my career was toast, and the community that once felt like home split down the middle, half apologizing, half pretending nothing happened. Kimberly and Victor went to prison, Linda entered witness protection, and Lena and I tried to pick up the pieces. We installed security systems, changed every password, learned not to trust a friendly face just because they smiled at your kid. Mrs. Webb, bless her, now runs a neighborhood watch and fraud education committee. And while the wounds never fully healed, some neighbors still crossed the street to avoid us. Our marriage came out the other side, scarred but stronger, proof that when the world turns upside down, the only thing that matters is who's standing beside you. The craziest part? There are more of these scams out there. Federal prosecutors found at least 7 other victims, some who never got their homes back. I check backgrounds before I trust anyone now, and every mortgage payment feels like a tiny act of defiance. The house is still ours, but it'll never be the same. Now it's a fortress, a symbol, a reminder to trust your gut and fight for what's yours, no matter what it costs. So let me ask you, what would you do if your whole world turned against you? If everyone you trusted believed a lie so deep, even you started to wonder if it was true? Tell me below about the wildest false accusation you've ever faced, or what you'd do if it happened to you. If you found this story as crazy as I did living it, drop a comment, share your thoughts on justice and community, and hit that like button, because you never know when you might need an army behind you. Stay sharp, stay suspicious, and remember, sometimes the biggest danger is the neighbor who's just a little too helpful.